for opening my dad's sealed letter instead of signing over his house? I'm Ivy, 42, and Robert was my dad before he became the estate everyone suddenly had an opinion about. For most of my life, I was the daughter who kept receipts in the glove box, carried jumper cables, and showed up when Dad called because the garage door was sticking again. Dad and I were never sentimental in the greeting card way. We showed up with socket wrenches and coffee. We remembered oil change mileage. We fixed the loose cabinet hinge nobody else noticed. After he died, I kept telling myself my mom, Celia, was grieving and my brother Owen was just scared. Grief can make people weird. Grief can make people controlling. Grief can make a person clutch old mugs and argue over where a stack of mail should go. But grief does not usually come with a locksmith appointment taped to the front door, a moving truck parked crookedly in the driveway, and a quitclaim deed waiting on the hood of someone's car. My dad's house was not fancy. It was the kind of place that always smelled faintly like cut wood, old coffee, and the lemon cleaner my mom used when she wanted company to think we lived neater than we did. The garage was Dad's favorite room. He called it his workshop, even though half the family called it his junk cave. There was an old metal tool chest against the back wall with faded masking tape labels in Dad's blocky handwriting. Washers, hinges, drill bits, odd screws, cabinet pulls. The workbench had coffee rings from 20 years ago. The pegboard still had outlines around tools that had hung in the same place since I was a kid. I cared about that garage because Dad cared about it. I also cared because he had made it clear more than once that he wanted me to have it. Not in a dramatic way. Dad did not sit everyone down and make speeches. He would say things while we were doing something else. One afternoon, about 8 months before he died, we were in the garage sorting through a drawer full of duplicate Allen wrenches. He had been sick enough that he moved slower, but stubborn enough to pretend he was only a little tired. He handed me a coffee in one of those chip diner mugs he refused to throw away. "If things get weird," he said, "don't let anyone rush you into being agreeable." I looked at him over the rim of my mug. "Dad, what does that mean?" He slid a drawer closed with his hip. "It means read what I left you before you sign anything." I tried to make a joke because that was easier than admitting I heard the fear in his voice. "You leaving me pirate treasure?" He smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. "Something like that." That was Dad. He would rather tell you where the flashlight batteries were than say he was worried about dying. My mom always preferred Owen, but she would have called it something softer. Owen was sensitive. Owen needed family. Owen had a harder time landing on his feet. I was capable, which sounded like a compliment until it became the reason I was expected to carry whatever everyone else dropped. When Owen wrecked a car, Mom said, "He's embarrassed. Don't make him feel worse." When he borrowed money from Dad and missed 3 repayment dates, Mom said, "Your brother is trying." When I paid for the water heater at Dad's house because he had a medical bill due and did not want to tell Mom, she said, "You can afford it more than Owen could." That was my family's favorite compliment. It sounded nice until it became a bill. Dad saw it. He did not always fight it loudly, but he saw it. Sometimes when Mom made excuses for Owen at the kitchen table, Dad would look at me and give the smallest shake of his head, like he was telling me not to take the bait. Later he would call and say, "Ivy, you got a minute to help me check the garage door sensor?" And we would spend an hour fixing something that only needed 10 minutes because neither of us wanted to talk about the bigger thing. After Dad passed, I expected paperwork to be painful. I did not expect my mother to treat questions like attacks. The first week after the funeral, I asked Mom where Dad kept the final utility documents and the folder he had labeled property transfer. She was standing at the kitchen island, rolling a tissue between her fingers. "You don't need to be in all of that right now," she said. "Dad asked me to help keep things organized. Your father isn't here to be bothered by this anymore." That sentence landed hard enough that I stopped talking for a second. I told myself she was overwhelmed. Then my spare key stopped working. The first time Mom said the lock was sticking. The second time Owen said he had tightened something because the door was old. The third time I drove over to check on a leak Dad had warned me about and the side door key turned halfway, caught and would not budge. I texted Mom, "The side key isn't working again. Did you change anything?" She replied 20 minutes later, "Your brother is handling security. Please don't make this harder." I stared at that message in my car with the engine still running. Dad had given me that spare key years ago. Not because I was sneaking in. Because he trusted me to check on the place, bring in packages, restart the breaker when the freezer tripped, and make sure the garage did not flood during heavy rain. Then relatives started texting. My Aunt Ruth, Mom's sister, sent Ivy, your mother is heartbroken. Please don't turn this into a fight over things. That confused me because I had not asked for things. I had asked for paperwork. A cousin wrote, everyone knows you're practical, but maybe let Owen have what he needs right now. Another said, your mom says you're trying to take the garage before anything is settled. I read that one 3 times. The garage was not something I had just decided I wanted. Dad had talked to me about it. He had shown me the filing cabinet. He had told me which drawer held the recorded transfer receipt. He had told me, in that flat, practical voice of his, people respect paper more than memory. Still, I did not explode. I answered calmly. Too calmly, probably. I wrote back to Ruth. I'm not fighting over things. I'm asking for the documents Dad told me existed. She replied, please don't upset your mother today. That became the pattern. Mom cried first, and everyone treated my calm as cruelty. Owen was different. He did not bother sounding wounded. He sounded annoyed, like I had interrupted him during something he had already decided was his. A few weeks after the funeral, he called while I was folding laundry. You don't even need that garage, he said without saying hello. What are you talking about? Dad's tools, the equipment, all of it. You have your own life. That doesn't answer my question. He huffed. I could hear traffic in the background. Mom can't deal with all that junk sitting there. It's depressing. It wasn't junk when Dad used it. Yeah, well, Dad's gone. I sat down on the edge of the bed. Owen. What? We're all thinking it. You just like acting like the only responsible one. I almost said something cruel. I wanted to. I wanted to tell him Dad had called me because I showed up sober on time, and with a flashlight that worked. I wanted to tell him Dad had stopped lending him money because he was tired of being treated like an ATM with a pulse. Instead, I said, don't move anything until the inventory is done. He laughed. You always have to make everything official. That same day, I contacted Andrea. Andrea was not dramatic. That was what I liked about her. She did not gasp when I showed her Mom's texts or tell me my family was awful. She spread the papers across a conference table, read everything twice, and said, do not fight about feelings when the issue is access, ownership, and records. So I stopped defending my character? I asked. Exactly, she said. Make them defend their actions. She helped me send a certified letter requesting preservation of property until a proper inventory could be completed. No selling. No donating. No destroying. No removing items from the house, garage, or workshop area without documentation and agreement. She also told me to keep every message, every voicemail, every photo, every receipt. Put it in writing, she said. Do not negotiate through guilt. I left with copies in a folder and a strange, hollow feeling in my chest. It was not relief exactly. It was the feeling of admitting that my own family had become people I needed documentation against. 2 days after the certified letter went out, Mr. Hale called me. He had been Dad's friend for as long as I could remember. They were the kind of old friends who could sit in a garage for 3 hours and say 20 sentences total. He had helped Dad rebuild the workbench when I was 14. He had also been there the year Owen backed Dad's truck into the fence, and Mom somehow blamed the fence for being too close. Ivy, he said, your dad left something with me. I was standing in my kitchen with the phone pressed too hard against my ear. What kind of something? A bank envelope. Sealed. Signed across the flap. My mouth went dry. He made me promise not to hand it over unless someone tried to corner you, Mr. Hale said. Corner me how? With guilt first, he said. Paper second. That sounded so much like Dad that I had to close my eyes. I met Mr. Hale in a grocery store parking lot, because he said he did not want Mom knowing before I had read it. He handed me a thick beige bank envelope. Dad's signature ran across the sealed flap, half on the paper and half over the glue line. It was the kind of simple precaution Dad would have loved. Not fancy, not cinematic, just hard to tamper with quietly. I'm not here to stir anything up, Mr. Hale said. I know. Your dad was worried. I looked down at the envelope. My thumb rested on his handwriting. Mr. Hale cleared his throat. He said, Ivy will be called greedy for keeping exactly what I gave her. I didn't like hearing him talk that way. But he was clear. I wanted to open it right there, but I remembered Dad's warning. Read what I left you before you sign anything. I also remembered Andrea's voice. Do not give them a reason to say you acted emotionally. So I put the envelope in my lockbox and waited. For a little while things went quiet. Not peaceful. Quiet. Mom sent long messages about family unity. Owen sent short ones asking whether I had come to my senses. Ruth checked in with me, but every message still had Mom's fingerprints on it. Your mother says you won't return sentimental things. Your mother says Owen is only trying to help clear clutter. Your mother says your father would hate all this fighting. I wanted to write back, then why did she change the locks? Instead, I collected. I took photos of the side door where my key no longer worked. I kept the locksmith advertisement Owen accidentally left visible in one photo. He sent to Mom in the family chat. I saved a voicemail from Celia where she said, Your father had ideas when he was sick. We need to be practical now. Practical was suddenly code for Owen gets paid. Then Mom sent the text that erased the last excuse I had been making for her. Your father wanted you to keep the garage, yes, but Owen needs it more than you need old walls. I stared at the word yes. Not I don't know. Not we need to check. Not that's not what he meant. Yes. I forwarded it to Andrea and wrote she admits he wanted me to have it. Andrea replied, save original. Screenshot with timestamp. Do not respond emotionally. So I did not. Then came Owen's text. If you want any of Dad's junk, come now. After today it's gone. That was how I found out my family had scheduled my goodbye for me. I drove over with my folder, my phone fully charged, and Dad's sealed envelope in my bag. I called Mr. Hale before I left. Owen texted me, I said. I'm on my way, he replied. I also called Andrea. She listened, asked whether the preservation letter had been received, and told me to photograph everything before touching anything. Do not block anyone physically, she said. Do not argue with movers. Get names, invoice numbers, license plates if visible, and keep your voice level. My mother is going to cry. She can cry, Andrea said. The issue is not who is sadder. The issue is who has authority to remove property. When I turned onto Dad Street, the first thing I saw was the moving truck. It was parked crookedly in the driveway, the back ramp already down. A locksmith van sat by the curb. On the front door, taped under the wreath Mom had never taken down after the funeral, was an appointment confirmation with the locksmith's logo and Owen's name written in pen. Boxes were stacked near the garage. Some were marked donate. Some were marked sell. One had trash written across the top in black marker. The side door had a new deadbolt. For a moment, I just sat in my car with both hands on the steering wheel. Dad's garage door was open halfway, the way he used to leave it when he wanted air but not bugs. Inside I could see the tool chest. A few drawers were pulled out. Blue painter's tape had been stuck on certain items, each piece marked with numbers. Someone had tagged Dad's things. I got out and started taking photos. Owen spotted me first. He walked out of the garage wiping his hands on his jeans like he had been doing honest work. You came, he said. Good. This doesn't have to be ugly. It already is, I said. Mom appeared behind him holding a cardboard box of framed photos. Her hair was done. Not funeral done but public done. She wore the soft gray sweater she used when she wanted to look fragile. Ruth stood near the porch with her purse clutched in both hands, looking worried and uncomfortable. Two movers hovered by the truck, clearly wishing they were anywhere else. Mom lifted the box a little. I saved the photos for you because I knew that's what you'd actually care about. I looked at the box. There were pictures of Dad fishing, Dad holding me as a baby, Dad standing beside Owen at his high school graduation, Dad in the garage wearing the ugly brown cap I bought him as a joke and he wore for 10 years. Then I looked at the moving truck. Why is there a truck here? I asked. Owen stepped forward and held out a clipboard. Just sign this and stop dragging it out. I did not take it. What is it? A release, he said. For your share of the garage and workshop area. Mom's going to handle the property, and we'll make sure you get sentimental stuff. Mom's voice trembled on cue. Ivy, please. I cannot keep waking up to his things everywhere. Then we do an inventory, I said. We don't load boxes into a truck. Owen pushed the clipboard closer. It's garage junk until there's money, then suddenly you care. I kept my hands at my sides because they were shaking. I'm not signing anything on a driveway. Of course, he said. You need an audience. That was when I noticed the paper clipped behind the release form. It said quitclaim deed near the top. I laughed once, not because anything was funny. You wanted me to sign a deed without review? Owen's jaw tightened. You always act like everyone's trying to trick you. I looked at the moving truck, the locksmith van, the marked boxes, the new lock, and the deed in his hand. You brought props, I said. Mom's eyes filled with tears as one of the movers glanced over. Your father would be ashamed to see you turning his home into a battlefield. You brought a truck in a release form, I said. I brought questions. Her face hardened for half a second before the sadness came back. Most people missed that switch. I had been watching it my whole life. Ruth came down the porch steps. Ivy, maybe we should all just take a breath. Your mom said you were refusing to let her clear anything. I asked for an official inventory. That's not what she said. I know. Owen snorted. See? She loves this. She loves making Mom look bad. I ignored him and stepped toward the garage, taking more photos. The inside looked worse up close. The old rolling stool was gone. Dad's air compressor had a piece of tape on it with a number. So did the drill press. Several shelves had empty spaces where things had already been removed. On top of Dad's tool chest was a receipt. It had been taped down, probably to keep it from blowing away. I saw a first name, a deposit amount, and the words tool lot/access. Before I could photograph it clearly, Owen lunged past me and ripped it off the chest. What was that? I asked. None of your business. Who gave you a deposit? He crumpled the paper in his fist. You don't get to interrogate me. I looked at him and all the pieces stopped floating around separately. Owen did not need the garage because of grief. He did not even want Dad's things because of sentiment. He had already promised them to someone. He needed my signature because he had sold or tried to sell property that was not his to sell. You sold something you didn't own, didn't you? I said. Mom snapped. Do not talk to your brother like he's a criminal. Owen pointed at me. You ruin everything by making it complicated. No, I said. You made it complicated when you took money. His face changed just enough to tell me I was right. The mover stopped pretending not to listen. Mom hugged the box of photos to her chest. This is what I mean. You are making your father's death ugly. I reached into my bag. Owen said, What now? I took out the bank envelope. Dad's signature was still across the flap. Dad told me not to open this unless someone tried to rush me. Owen laughed, sharp and fake. That's convenient. So is a moving truck, I said. I broke the seal. The paper inside smelled faintly like Dad's filing cabinet, dusty and metallic. There were notarized copies of his estate letter, a document reference number for the property transfer, a handwritten letter, a list of garage contents arranged by wall, shelf, drawer, and tool chest section. There were notes in Dad's handwriting about items he believed Owen might try to sell. There were also copies of loan notes, amounts Dad had given Owen over the years, and one page with Mom's name at the top. I did not read all of it out loud. I did not need to humiliate anyone with every detail. Not yet. I unfolded the handwritten letter first. Dad's writing was smaller than it used to be, but steady. I read one line. If Ivy is being pressured to give this up, then the pressure is exactly why I protected it for her. The driveway went quiet. Even the movers stopped shifting their weight. Ruth looked at Mom. Celia, did you know about this? Mom's mouth opened, then closed. Owen scoffed. Anyone can write a letter. A voice behind us said, Robert wrote that one. Mr. Hale had walked up from the curb. I had not heard him arrive. He moved slowly, with a manila folder tucked under his arm, wearing the same old work jacket he had worn to Dad's funeral. Mom's face went pale in a way her tears had never made it. You had no right to interfere, she said. Mr. Hale looked at her, not unkindly. Robert asked me to protect his words from being buried. Owen shook his head. This is ridiculous. Mr. Hale opened his folder. I have a copy. Same letter. Same notarized documents. Robert gave them to me because he was afraid exactly this would happen. Mom turned away from the movers like she suddenly remembered they existed. This is family business. It became more than that when you hired people to remove property under dispute, I said. Andrea arrived about 3 minutes later. She was not dramatic either. She parked behind my car, walked up with a folder, and introduced herself calmly to everyone, including the movers and locksmith. I'm not accusing anyone here of wrongdoing, she told them. I am telling you there is now a documented dispute. A preservation notice was already sent, and continuing to remove items or change access is a choice with consequences. I'll need the invoice numbers and the name of the person who authorized the work. One mover raised both hands a few inches. We're not getting involved in that. The locksmith looked at Owen. You said this was cleared. It is, Owen snapped. Andrea looked at him. Then you can provide the authority in writing. Owen looked at Mom. Mom looked at the box of photos. Nobody produced anything. The locksmith peeled the appointment confirmation off the door and folded it. I'm stopping until this is sorted. Owen cursed under his breath. I took out my phone. There's one more thing. He stepped toward me. Don't. I played the voicemail. Owen's recorded voice came out tinny but clear. If you don't sign, I'll sell it anyway and let you sue me. I'm done waiting for you to act like Dad made you queen of the garage. Ruth flinched. She knew his voice. Everyone did. Owen talked over it. That was taken out of context. I stopped the playback. That's not grief. That's a sales plan. Mom's tears started again, but this time Ruth did not move toward her. Ruth asked quietly, Celia, did Robert actually leave this portion to Ivy? Mom pressed her lips together. Celia, Ruth said firmer. Did he? Mom's voice shook. I was trying to protect the family. That was not an answer and everyone knew it. No, I said. You were protecting Owen from consequences and expecting me to pay for it again. Owen threw the clipboard onto the workbench. You're turning this into a legal mess. You brought the mess, I said. I'm labeling it. Then I turned to Mom. You don't get to steal Dad's wishes and call my resistance greed. Her face twisted. So this is who you are now. No, I said. This is who I should have been sooner. The movers left without loading the remaining items. One of them gave Andrea his invoice number and said, We were told it was a clean out. The locksmith left too, after handing over his card and saying he would not complete the access change without written proof. Owen stood by the garage door, furious and suddenly much smaller without a truck behind him. Mom still held the box of photos. When I reached for it, she pulled it back like she had forgotten she was using it as bait. Those are mine too, she said. I'm not taking your memories, I said. I'm taking copies and the ones Dad set aside for me. We'll document the rest. She looked at Ruth as if expecting rescue. Ruth looked down. That silence mattered more than an apology would have in that moment. The official inventory started the following week. Andrea made sure everything was scheduled, documented, photographed, and signed in and out. The property access process changed. Mom and Owen could not enter the workshop area or remove items without written notice. Utilities connected to my portion were transferred properly, which mattered because Mom had been telling people I was wandering into her house like I had no legal reason to be there. The inventory confirmed what I already suspected. Multiple items had been tagged for removal before any agreement. Several smaller tools were missing. Dad's rolling stool, 2 specialty saws, a cabinet of vintage hardware, and a box of old gauges had already been moved to Owen's storage unit. Owen claimed he was keeping them safe. Andrea asked for the storage unit receipt. He got red in the face. You people are insane. But he produced it 3 days later, after his buyer started calling. I knew about the buyer because Owen left me a furious voicemail at 10:18 on a Thursday night. You ruined a deal that could have helped everybody, he said. Now I have some guy threatening me over a deposit, and Mom's crying again. Hope you're proud. I saved it. Then I wrote one sentence back. It was not everybody's deal. It was Dad's property. He did not answer. The buyer eventually demanded the deposit back. I do not know exactly what Owen had promised him, but I know enough from the receipt and later paperwork to know it involved more than junk. He had offered tools, equipment, and access for removal, which made my stomach turn. Access. Like Dad's garage was a storage locker Owen had won in a raffle. Mom tried to fix it quietly at first. That was her way. Smooth it over, cry in the right rooms, make someone else pay the bill. But the story had already started escaping her. For weeks, relatives had heard that I was cold, greedy, and making my grieving mother beg for sentimental items. They had heard that Owen was handling logistics because I was being difficult. They had heard that I cared more about old tools than my family. So I sent emails. Not a rant. Not a public post. Individual emails to the people who had texted me, judged me, or repeated Mom's version. Andrea helped me keep it clean. I wrote, I'm not asking anyone to take sides. I'm asking you to stop repeating a version that leaves out documents, threats, and the moving truck. Then I included a short timeline. Dad's prior instructions. The preservation letter. Mom's text admitting Dad wanted me to keep the garage. Owen's text telling me the items would be gone after that day. Photos of the locksmith appointment, moving truck, boxes marked sell, donate, and trash. A photo of the release form and quitclaim deed. The excerpt from Dad's letter. The voicemail transcript where Owen said he would sell the items anyway. The inventory note showing tagged items and missing property. I did not include the loan notes from Dad about Owen. I could have. I wanted to. But those were not necessary to defend myself, and I could almost hear Dad saying, "Don't swing every tool you own just because you're mad." The responses were exactly what you would expect from a family that had been comfortable judging me when the facts were fuzzy. Some went silent. One cousin wrote, "I didn't know Owen had already tried to sell anything." Another wrote, "I only heard one side. I'm sorry." Someone else said, "Please don't include me in this anymore," which was funny because I had not included them in anything until they included themselves in my grief. Ruth called me from her parked car 2 days after the email went out. I could hear the blinker ticking in the background. "Ivy," she said, "I owe you an apology." I sat at my kitchen table with the inventory checklist spread out in front of me. "Okay. I thought your mother was telling me the whole story." "She wasn't." "I know that now." Ruth's voice cracked a little. "I thought you were being cold." "I was being careful. I should have known the difference." That was the first apology that felt like it cost someone something. Ruth did not become my new best friend. She did not magically fix the family. But she did something important. When Mom tried to tell people the envelope was confusing and Dad was not himself, Ruth corrected her. She said, "Robert left it to Ivy. I saw the documents. I saw the truck." Mom hated that. Owen hated it more. At one point he sent a text that said, "You love acting like Dad picked you." I typed 3 replies and deleted all of them. Finally I wrote, "Dad made a decision. You're angry I stopped you from burying it." He did not respond for a week. The returned items came back slowly. Some were dusty. Some had new scratches. One specialty saw was missing a part Owen claimed had probably been gone already, even though Dad's inventory list described the part and its drawer location. The box of gauges returned in a plastic bin that smelled like cigarette smoke. I documented every item. Not because I wanted to live like that forever, but because I had learned what happened when I relied on people's good intentions after they had already shown me their plans. Mom tried once more to get me alone. She left a voicemail first. "Ivy, I don't want to talk through paperwork. I'm your mother. We should be able to sit down like adults." Then she sent a text. "So this is what you want? A house instead of a mother?" I looked at that message for a long time. A year earlier I would have called her. I would have tried to explain that I loved her, that I missed Dad, that I was not trying to hurt anyone, that I had always been the one who showed up. I would have handed her my softness and waited for her to use it responsibly. This time I answered in writing. I wanted a mother who did not make me buy her honesty with my inheritance. She replied almost immediately, "That is cruel." I did not answer. 'Cause maybe it was. Or maybe it only felt cruel because it was the first thing I had said that she could not fold into a story where I was unreasonable and she was suffering nobly. The paperwork took months. Dad's documents did not make every process instant. There were signatures, notices, access schedules, inventory corrections, and enough emails to make me hate the word attached. I spent money I did not want to spend. I lost sleep. I had nights where I stood in my own kitchen and cried because I missed Dad so much it felt physical. But I kept the property and the garage workshop he intentionally left me. Not because I outshouted anyone. Not because I proved I loved him more. Because Dad had prepared for the exact moment my family would try to turn pressure into consent, and for once in my life, I let the paper trail speak louder than my need to be seen as good. The last official inventory day was quiet. Owen did not come. Mom came for 15 minutes, signed what she had to sign, and left without looking at me. Ruth stayed and helped me place the framed photos on the workbench while Andrea checked the final list near the garage door. One photo showed Dad standing in that same garage, holding up a broken lawn mower part like a trophy. I was in the corner of the picture at maybe 17, laughing with grease on my cheek. Dad had written on the back, "Ivy helped." As usual. I put that photo on the workbench not as a trade and not as a consolation prize. It belonged there because that was where I remembered him best. After everyone left, I stayed. The garage was still a mess, but it was an honest mess now. The drawers were back in the tool chest. The masking tape labels were faded but readable. I put washers with washers, hinges with hinges, odd screws in the drawer that had always been too full. I found Dad's old brown cap on a shelf behind a coffee can of nails and set it next to the photo. For the first time since he died, the silence in that garage did not feel like people waiting to take something. It just felt quiet. Mom never gave me a real apology. Owen still tells anyone who will listen that I overreacted and lawyered up over garage junk. Some relatives still think I should have let it go because peace matters more than property. I wanted peace too. That was the part they never understood. But peace and silence are not the same thing. They wanted me quiet because quiet made their version easier. Dad knew that. He knew me well enough to know I would hesitate. He knew I would worry about looking selfish. He knew Celia would cry and Owen would push and half the family would assume the calm daughter must be the cold one. So he left me paper. And when the moment came, I finally used it. I didn't win a house that day. I stopped them from burying Dad's last decision under Mom's version of the truth. For the first time, I let my family call me selfish and didn't rush to prove I was good. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.